So today we are talking about 3D versus 5D consciousness, what it is, what the benefits are of living in 5D versus 3D consciousness, what it means to live in 3D consciousness versus 5D consciousness, and the benefits of 5D consciousness as opposed to 3D consciousness. So welcome, I'm Michaela Alden, the founder of Strive Alliance, and welcome to the Strive Alliance community, where we are dedicated to endeavoring to live lives we absolutely love living, but also understanding how we can actually go about creating the lives we love living and what it means for me as an individual, for you as an individual, to live a life that you absolutely love living. Okay, so 3D versus 5D consciousness. What is 3D consciousness? What is 5D consciousness? So 3D consciousness essentially is what we are able to see, what our five senses are able to engage with, what we can see, what we can touch, what we can feel. It's the 3D world that we live in, the tables, the chairs, the phones, the televisions, the books, everything we can, it's the 3D world. Okay. Then we've got the 5D consciousness. 5D consciousness is a whole other level of engaging with life. 5D consciousness is not limited. It's us engaging with life in a way that's not limited to the 3D world. So when I look at the 3D world, I will look at my bank account to determine what it is I'm able to buy, what it is I'm able to do. I will look at my resources. And essentially what happens when we are connected to 3D consciousness is that we are looking at our circumstances, we are looking at our conditions to determine what it is that we can do now to create more of whatever life we have been creating for ourselves. So essentially, if I'm looking to my conditions, if I'm looking at my bank account balance, if I'm looking at my perceived resources, and I say perceived resources because if you're someone who has watched the other videos on my channel, you and I are only able to process the human mind only able to process 1%, less than 1%. I'm rounding off to 1%. Less than 1% of information that we are presented with at any given time. So if I am in a situation and I'm processing 1% of the information that I'm able to be aware of, because I am aware of the information that I'm processing based on my history and my beliefs and my memories and things that I'm familiar with already, and I make meaning of this based on where I'm coming from, what my history is, what my programming is, my subconscious programming is, there is a very limited way of living life. I'm going to create more of that because I'm creating that same 1% over and over and over and over and over and over again. But when I disconnect from only operating in life from the 3D sense, and I now decide I'm willing to endeavor on operating in life, in and with life, on a 5D consciousness, that is when we start getting connected to a higher power. 5D consciousness is when I endeavor to live my life connected to a higher power, connected to the infinite, connected to God, or whatever you want to call this higher power, this higher source, whatever label you want to put to it. I am now connected to it. You are now connected to it. And we are living from that point. And I'm creating my life in connection with this higher power, as opposed to creating my life based on my 3D, what I'm able to see, what my bank account balance is, what my perceived resources are. Because also, when I say perceived resources, not only about the 1%, but because also of the 1%, we always have more than what we actually are aware of, but we are not always aware of the more that we have. So we create life in that limited sense. But even if I don't bother about the other 99%, then I'm now working from the point of being connected to a higher power, being connected to that source of power, and tuning into the oneness of life. I'm now no longer disconnecting myself from myself and you, myself and any situation. It's all connected, essentially. So if you look at it in this sense, okay, 5D consciousness is living life when you're connected to an infinite side of your being. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. So 5D consciousness is living life from that awareness of my connection to a higher power. Whereas with a 3D consciousness, what I see is what I see, and what I see is what there is, and that is as far as it goes. If you think about the invention of electricity, the invention of flight, the internet, I mean, all the creations that we have, the inventions that have been coming up and are continuing to come up. If we stuck, okay, if no one ever thought beyond the 3D, if no one ever went beyond 3D consciousness and we just stayed in 3D consciousness, it means that we will continue creating more of what we have been creating. Because essentially what I'm doing is I'm looking towards what I'm able to perceive that I do have, and then I create more of what I already do have based on what I do have. Because if my bank account balance says I only have 10,000 in there, then I'm going to create a life based on that 10,000 only, right? Whereas if I am not looking at my bank account balance and I'm asking myself, what would I genuinely truly love to experience in this life? Now I'm coming from a point of love. Okay, what would I genuinely truly love for my life? And coming from that point of love is when I then connect to my higher power to achieve the thing that I would love. I'm connecting to a source that I'm connected to. As a spiritual being, having a human experience, I'm connected to a source. I'm tuning into that source as my resource. And it's the same thing with work. I wouldn't be making this video right now if I did not lean into that resourcefulness of God, of the infinite, of this higher power, of this connection to something that is greater than what I am in my human form, in this state that I am at, as we're endeavoring to live the life that we're endeavoring to live here on earth. So I would not be making this video if I didn't believe in that connection, if I didn't have faith in that connection. And this is what is a vital part in interacting with dream building, with building the dreams that you'd actually like to live and endeavor to experience in your life. Because at the end of the day, if I know every step to achieve something, whatever it is I want to achieve, that's not a dream, that's a goal, because I know how to achieve it. I just need to do it, right? But there's something I want to achieve and I don't know how to achieve it, but I know what it is I want to achieve, and it makes me feel alive, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I would absolutely love this, but I don't know how to go about it. And because I don't know how to go about it, that is why it was now become so important for me to lean into resourcefulness of this infinite side of my nature, of the support of God, of the support of the universe, whatever term you choose to put to it. Now, when you look at it, there's where we are right now, where I am, where you are right now, and then there's the dream, right, of what it is we'd actually love to achieve, which facilitates us living lives we absolutely love living. Because I'm not going for something just for the sake of going for it. I'm going for it because I know that this is going to make me, when I get there, I'm going to be like, oh my goodness, I've achieved this, right? And that's now the dream, right, of what it is you'd like to experience. But now between the dream and between where we are right now, there's a gap, okay? And that gap there is the tricky part, navigating the gap of where I am right now versus where it is I would love to be. And in the coaching program that I facilitate my clients with, that's the gap is what we call the bridging phase. Okay, so we've got the blueprint, and that's phase one, where we first now identify what it is that I would actually love to experience in my life in terms of my health and my well-being, my time and money freedom, my love and my relationships, and my vocation, the thing I spend most of my time in a day doing. What would I really love in this holistic sense? How would my full spectrum wealth look like if I had to be experiencing it? And the beauty about the technology that I use and I facilitate my clients with is that you might, even if you don't have a clear picture yet in terms of what that would actually look like, there is a way about going about connecting with the frequency of what it is you'd like to have the pictures drop in terms of what it is you'd actually like to be experiencing it in the 3D world. Okay, so the 5D world is connecting with a higher consciousness. 5 is higher than 3. So even if you look at the order of the numbers, a 5D consciousness is connecting to a higher consciousness of engaging with life, and from that state of higher consciousness of engaging with life is how we actually go about creating our lives. And it's also a shift in terms of this, how we feel about the lives that we are living, and understanding the feelings that we are feeling, understanding why we're feeling the feelings that we're feeling, how to process the feelings, and then how to take that the wisdom in what we are busy experiencing it and use that now to move us forward. Because when we go through this process, you are going to be challenged, because we grew up in a system that you go to school, from school you go and you get a qualification, and from the qualification you go and get a job, and now you're going to go and then it's life. Now you're working and you're coming home and you're doing what you're doing, and it's a cycle until you retire. You go to work, you come home, you do what you do. You go to work, you come home, you do what you do. You go to work, you come home, you do what you do. And that's a cycle I was in for a long time. And while I was in that cycle, I also had a lot of discontent. I remember sitting at my desk and I was like, man, is this really life? Is this really life? I go to work, I come home, I pay the bills, I do what I gotta do in terms of doing what you gotta do at home, for that home life and so on. And you go to work, and it's like, is this really it? Is this really it? And that's actually how I got into the stage. So between the 3D and 5D, there is the 4D stage. And 4D consciousness, when we start to become aware that there's more to life than just the 3D world that we've been engaging with and have been aware of, but there's also this 5D side, this 5D consciousness. Now that's a transition stage, and it's a tricky stage to navigate, because we have a whole very mature, very familiar beliefs that we have installed from the time that we've been engaging in this life up until where we are right now. And those beliefs have been running our lives, because we make decisions based on what we believe about, right? And if I believe that the 3D world is all there is, I'm going to make decisions based on the 3D world. That's why, yes, I will look at my bank account before I make a decision about something I know I really want to do. But if my bank account says there's not enough money to do it, I'm not going to do it, because according to my bank account, I can't do it. Even though I know I really want to do it, and I know it's something that's going to make me so, it gives me that sense of aliveness when I want to do it. But I'm looking at my bank account and I'm not doing it, despite the aliveness that I'm getting from it, because I'm in 3D consciousness. So I'm looking towards my circumstances and conditions to determine what it is that I would actually love to do. And now I'm not doing what I would love to do, because my circumstances say I can't do it, so I don't do it. And now I'm not happy about the fact that I can't do it, but I just muscle on through life. We just drag our feet on and we just somehow get through it. I can't do what I really want to do. And that was something that it has been a very difficult thing for me to accept about life and about that belief about life. I honestly don't believe that we are just born to survive. I honestly believe that we did not just come onto this plane to just go to school, then get a job, and then do what you got to do at job, which is now a separate life from your home life, and then come home and do what you got to do at home, and you go through the cycle the whole time. The disconnect for me was something that wasn't gauging. It just was a puzzle. It wasn't quite fitting in my life. And when I started to get curious about it, is when I started to realize that there is more to life than what we are aware of, right? But becoming aware of the fact that there's more to life than what we're aware of doesn't just change things. Becoming aware of the fact that I'm connected to this thing called abundance, to this infinite resource, to this power that knows all, right? And it's facilitating me in this world, doesn't mean that I am just going to discard and disregard the whole amount, all the years that I've been living, all the beliefs that I have installed in me. That's still there, and I'm very familiar with it. So naturally, yes, I'm aware of it now, but I catapult, I sling it right back to what I'm familiar with, what I do know, because I'm familiar with it and I know it and I'm comfortable with it. In my discomfort, I'm comfortable about knowing my discomfort. So we tend to stay in that discomfort because we know about it. But then when you start to get curious about it, you say, okay, now I actually want to, I'm ready to live a life that I genuinely love living, live into my purpose, live into whatever reason I'm here to be living into. Discover what that reason is. that also comes with sacrifice, because now what you're actually saying is that I'm ready to let go of the life that I'm familiar with, the life that I've been living, and I'm willing now to endeavor to live a life that I've never lived before. I'm now willing to do things that I've never done before. I'm now willing to engage in walking into the wilderness, because essentially when you it's the same thing like me moving from being an employee to deciding I want to be an entrepreneur. I didn't just go into entrepreneurship. I mean, at first I was buying books and understanding what entrepreneurship, trying to get a grasp of it. And to be honest, there's nothing like redoing it, because I don't think, besides doing it, that the best way to prepare you for entrepreneurship is to do it, because that's when you actually realize, oh my word, there's this, there's that, there's things that I didn't even think about involved in the process. But it's something that you weigh the options on. Me going after something that I know, oh my goodness, gives me that, versus stay in the box that I'm familiar with and just being upset about what's going on, complaining about what's going on, and not being happy about the life that I'm living, but living it anyway because it's the life that I'm familiar with, versus going for the life that makes me feel, oh, this is the life that I would actually love living, is what makes the discomfort worth it. And it's also about weighing the options. Do I want to stay there for the rest of my life until the day where it's time for me to cross over? Because my human side, I have a birth date and I have a death date, or a transition phase to the other plane. When I get to my death date and I look back on my life, am I going to be happy? Am I going to say I lived my life? Am I going to say, you know what, I am proud of the life that I lived? Or am I going to look back at my life and I'm going to say, man, I wish I tried that. Man, if only I had done that. Man, I should have done that. And for me, regrets, like in terms of I should have done it or I should have tried it, is worse. Now, there's a one thing in feeling a regretting you did something and it didn't work out. I get where that's coming from, right? There's another way of reframing that with my clients will understand. When you go through the program with me, we deal with this aspect that I'm busy speaking about, in terms of when you look back at something and are you regretting that you did something, right? Point is, you did something, you didn't sit and do nothing, right? And that for me is way better than sitting back and doing nothing and wondering, what if I did try? What could have happened? What if I did? What if I did? Whatever it is way worse than saying, oh my goodness, I remember when I did that, and and it was such a flop because that didn't work out, and this was failure when I did that. The fact is, I did something, I didn't do nothing. That I can live with. But that of wondering, what if I did? Whatever it is that was going to be in the direction of what I know makes me feel alive. And you can feel your energy. You can feel it. It makes you feel alive, and you can feel the aliveness when you think about doing it, versus doing the thing that you know is just sucking the life out of you. Okay? And the interesting thing about life is that it doesn't stand still. If you think you stay in your comfort zone and it's where you're comfortable, it doesn't stand still. You're either progressing or you're regressing, but you're not standing still. We are never, ever, ever standing still. We are either progressing or we are regressing. So the beautiful thing about 5D consciousness is that we start to tune into a power that we already have access to, but tune into knowing how to access that power, because we are curious and we are now awake and aware to the fact that we are engaging with a higher power. And it takes practice. I'm telling you, up until today, I still have to use the tools that I'm busy using. I choose to use the tools that I'm busy using because I choose to go in the direction that I'm going into. And then I continue to go down. And I continue to use these tools to realign myself to knowing that I'm engaging with a higher power, because it is so easy. It is so easy to think that, oh my goodness, I got to figure this out on my own. There's this issue that needs to get sorted, and somehow we got to figure that out, and there's that issue. And, we're in the busyness of issues and problems that need to get sorted out. We're not concerned about anything related to what it will genuinely bring us joy. And I genuinely believe that every single human being lived, okay, once every single human being gets to 5D consciousness, the way we engage as human beings with each other, with ourselves, with everyone, with us on this planet, with the earth itself will transform, because now we're not looking to say, oh, I'm limited because of my bank account balance, or I'm limited because of my what happened in my past. It won't be that limitation. It'll be like, I know there's an infinite amount of resources. I know there's abundance presence to us all. How can I tune into that? And then we then take the technology and the tools that we are going to be, that you're going to be learning, if you decide to endeavor down this road, in terms of how do I now engage in asking the questions that need to be asked, and then getting the answers from this higher power to do the things that is required for me to do. How do I listen for the answers? How do I know when it's the answers? How do I get myself in vibration, in the correct vibration, in the right frequency, in the right state, to be able to connect to this higher source? Because we are connected to it anyway, but we disconnect ourselves by how we engage in life, right? So how do we go about maintaining that connection and not disconnecting ourselves, because we do disconnect ourselves from it, maintaining that connection, and then from that connection, building our lives, the lives that we absolutely love living, the lives that feel purposeful to us, the lives that feel meaningful to us, and life that's not limited to our history, not limited to my family history, what my parents or my caregivers believed about life, not limited to anything about anyone or anything, but a life that is in alignment, what makes me happy, what makes me feel alive, what makes me feel like I am now successful. I mean, I went through the whole standard thing of, you go to school, you get good grades, and you go and you get your qualifications, your higher education, and then you go and you get a job and start getting the promotions. And for me, going through that and getting the promotions, and you know, in life you look successful, but internally you feel like this is, for me, it felt like there was this hole in my core of my being that I didn't quite know how to fill. There was this emptiness. And I was like, okay, but what is this? How can I go about resolving this emptiness that I felt within me? Because I felt there was an emptiness within my being. And when I got curious about it and started making decisions to not just live the life according to what I knew about society, but to live life that is fulfilling to me, not living life where my job and my life is two separate things, especially when we spend so much time in a job. When you spend so much time in a job and then it's like a disconnect from your life, it wasn't holistic for me, and I wanted to know about how I can have holistic being. And even in that stage of building a company, building a coaching business, and having a job, I had a lot of struggle at the time in terms of how in marrying the two. And that led to other things as well, where eventually, like my mentor says, the content of your life is the curriculum for your evolution. And that is the truest thing that I've come to find. So whenever I'm going to something in life, I'm always asking myself, okay, what's the lesson for me here? What am I resisting? What am I holding on to? What do I need to let go of? I get curious and asking questions about this so that I can now navigate and move through this part of my life much more gracefully than being stuck there and like this fighting, but you're staying in one place and you're not moving forward from that. And at the end of the day, we have to move through the emotions of life, move through the circumstances that we find ourselves in. And when you engage in this work of, you know what, I'm now ready to live from a place of not looking at my resources and my bank account and what I perceive is the amount of time I have to get things done, but actually engaging from a place of what would I love? And I think that whatever it is, whatever area of your life it might be, your health and your well-being, your love and your relationships, your vocation, your time and money, freedom, whatever area it is, most people have got a time and money freedom constriction in terms of, I'm not experiencing like I would love to be experiencing it. And let's say it's your time and your money freedom. If you were living life the way you'd love to be living life, what would your time and money freedom look like? And once you gauge what it would look like in make you feel like, oh my goodness, I really love my life and this is it for me, then bridging the gap from where we are now to where it is we would love to be. And this is why coaches are available in this type of work, because I'm telling you now that the familiar is so comfortable and so sneaky and so familiar that it's very easy to just sling back to the old habits, sling back to the way of doing things you have been doing things, because you know how to do it that way. Now you asking for a person. If I'm a millionaire, right? I'm a millionaire today, and I wasn't a millionaire yesterday. Who I am today is not the same person I was yesterday. And in the program, I take my clients through these 4 phases of the process of transforming yourself from 3D consciousness to 5D consciousness. The blueprint, what it is that I would love for my life in terms of the 4 main areas: your health and your wealth, your vocation, your time, money, freedom, and your love and your relationships. And then once we get clear about that, and even if you don't know the pictures, there's a way of engaging with the process in a way where you'll connect with the frequency, and then the pictures will drop in terms of what it would actually look like for you, right? This is part of the process and the technology that I facilitate my clients with in terms of learning, number one, what it is and how to implement it in your life. And then there's the bridging phase of this is where I am right now, this is where I would love to be. But that gap is the tricky part, because I'm at a specific frequency here, and I'm in vibration. The vibration of abundance is on a specific frequency. Okay, so I want to connect with that frequency. But how do I go about doing that? So we apply technology and tools in the bridging phase to facilitate that, navigating the gap from where I am right now to where it is I would love to be in terms of my life experience. And then we've got the building. The building is to know exactly what you need to do the thing that is required, that's going to eventually lead to you living the life that you want to be living in terms of whatever that picture looks like. Okay, but it feels alive. It makes you feel like, oh my goodness, I love my life. And there's a specific technology we use and tools that we use for that process as well. But then ultimately, all of this process, okay, this process that we're going into transforming ourselves from 3D consciousness to 5D consciousness, leads to us becoming a specific person, becoming the person who is now in 5D consciousness. Because who I am living in 3D consciousness and who I am living in 5D consciousness is not the same person. Who I am today and who I was last year this time is not the same person, right? I do not recall any of my years I don't even know like where it's been. Sure, I can't recall 2 years in my life, or when last 2 years in my life have actually been the same year. And that's what you actually step into when you decide to live life in a 5D consciousness state, because you're not looking at your conditions to create your life. You're looking at what it is you actually love for yourself. And when you're looking at what it is you actually love for yourself, and you're building your life and making decisions today in service of what it is you love for yourself, you're not recreating what you already created for yourself, consciously or subconsciously. You're not recreating that. You are now creating a life based on the question that you're asking yourself, okay, if I had to be living the life that I would absolutely love to be living, money is not a factor, time is not a factor, what would that look like? And we get curious and we sit in it, and you start connecting with what your dream is. And a dream and a goal is not the same thing. A goal, you will know the steps to take to get to achieving that goal. It's just a matter of you doing it. A dream is when you're looking at it, you're like, this is what I would love for myself, but I got no clue how to do it. When I was yearning, I had this pull towards entrepreneurship, and specifically in this work that I'm in right now, I had no clue on how and when, how it's going to get to where it is I wanted to get to, but I had the vision of the end goal that I would love to be experiencing for myself. No clue about the how. Then okay, that's the dream that you're going for. That's what's actually calling for you right now. Because if you're feeling discontent about something or you're longing towards something, there's a call in there. But a goal and a dream, that's how you can distinguish the difference between a goal and a dream. And if you have a calling towards something, you have no clue on how you're going to achieve it, but it's calling you, then this is the type of technology that you want to implement in your life in terms of shifting from 3D to 5D consciousness. Because when you tune into 5D consciousness and you become now familiar with it, you start engaging with it, it's no longer about what my resources, my perceived resources say I can do, but I'm now engaging with life from connected to a higher source, connected to a higher power, and understanding how to connect with that higher source. For me, there was always a disconnect. I grew up in a Christian community, and God was always, the picture was always painted that there's some guy standing sitting in the clouds there or in the sky, looking down at me, seeing if I'm doing the wrong or right thing, and if I don't do the right thing, then I'm gonna get punished, or it's like doom gloom situation. And that was my engagement with this until later on in life when I started to get curious about, is this really it? Going to work, coming home. I mean, even if you're earning a good salary, that cycle at some point, there's discontent and longing that comes to it, because now you're living life, but are you really living life? You're going through the motions, but are you really living life? And living life is when you feel alive. You're like, oh my goodness, I love my life. And this is the next thing I'm going for. And I know how to engage and connect with the next thing for me. Because especially if you someone who goes for what you want and you achieve what you want to achieve, there's always a point of now what. I remember the first time I had my real now what was, I was working and I was studying at the same time to get my degree. And then I got my degree, and then I remember sitting on the day when you get the news that you now got your degree and everything. They said, oh my goodness, you finally got it, it's done, and so on. And then it sinks in to say, it's done. It's done. Now what? Because you're not gonna, are you gonna just go through the motions of go to work, come home, and you love your life and complain about things you're not happy about? But hey, it's life. This is what we've been taught, and use muscle on, knowing that you're discontent about life. And it's also the beauty about the program that I facilitate my clients through. It also teaches you how to take the gifts that are in that longings, into the discontents, and to work with it. But the biggest thing, I think, the most significant thing I think that I've learned in the program, because this is a program that I went through myself, and then I became certified as a coach to facilitate my clients to go through it as well, because I mean, this work is just so good. And if you spread it, I was like, if it gets spread like wildfire throughout the whole human race, it could literally transform how we operate as humans here on earth for the better. And that for me is like ultimate. That's ultimate. All of us operating on that level is ultimate. The most significant thing is how to navigate our nervous systems, because our nervous systems is a major factor in this process. And that's one of the tools that's taught in the program, how to regulate your nervous system so that you can continue doing what's required of you. And man, it is life-changing. It is life-changing. And also understand, when you grow up, no one tells you, oh, when you feel this way, this is what it means, and this is how you should navigate. If you're feeling sad, it means that this is why you're feeling sad. Or if you're feeling angry, how to deal with the feeling of anger. There's a lot of emotions that we as human beings process on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. In our lives, we process a whole lot of emotions. And a lot of the times, we're just figuring out and doing the best we can on what we think we know about it or what we're aware about it. But there's actually ways of navigating our emotions to facilitate us in creating lives we actually love to be living. But most of us are not familiar with that. And then also, again, once you do get familiar with it, because the coaching program that I take my clients through is a 3-month program, and the program is given to you. You get audios and books and stuff like that. And if you don't decide to continue on engaging with someone to show you how to navigate it, and you feel like you've mastered it enough, after that, you don't just end the process after the 3 months. It's something you're going to continue engaging with every single day. It's literally a way of being and living that you're now endeavoring to become a master at, right? It's a way of mastering yourself, mastering myself, so that we can control what it is that we think about and we do, which inevitably controls what life we create for ourselves. But if I'm creating a life for myself based on what it is my history has said my life should look like, or based on what my belief systems, which might not be serving me. And most of the time, we all of us have some belief system that's not serving us in terms of living life more fully. Then if I'm creating a life according to my history, I'm going to have more of that. And that's basically set. Then what's the point of continuing on? Because now I know what my life is going to look like. What my history looks like, what my now looks like, it's going to be what my future looks like. And that's when I love condition-based living. But I decided to not opt in for that. I'm like, no, there had to be more for it. And that's how I came about the system. of vision-based living. And vision-based living is where it gets really, really, really engaging with life, engaging with yourself and engaging with life to create vision-based lives in our 3D realm, right? In this 3D world of ours. But tuning in from a 5D consciousness so that our 3D experience, right, is expanded, is alive making, is alive feeling, and is not limited because it's connected to the infinite. Our human side, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. Our human side is limited. It's finite. There's a birth date, there's a death date. But our spiritual side is infinite. And that spiritual side of us is connected to a higher source, which we are connected to every single day. But I can cut off the connection based on what frequency I decide to tune into. But if I am applying the tools that we learn in the program, I am then readjusting myself to be in alignment with the frequency that's harmonious with abundance, that is harmonious with the dream that I actually want to be creating for myself, the life that I actually want to be creating for myself. And then using the tools and technology to navigate the gap between where I am now versus where it is I would love to be. So if you are someone who's interested in moving from 3D consciousness to 5D consciousness, to live a life that you would absolutely love living, the life that makes you feel alive. And you might already have an idea in terms of what it is when you think about it, makes you feel alive, in terms of the 4 main domains of your life. Again, your health and wealth, your love and your relationships, your vocations and your time and your money freedom. There is a technology, there is a system on how we can navigate this. I use it continuously every single day. I don't know how to operate in this way of being. I know how to operate in my box. If I'm in a box and I know this is a job I'm going to, I'm coming home and as I'm operating, I know how to operate it. But I opted to not let that be my life. So now I'm in this spiral of becoming where I'm like literally out in the wilderness and nothing is familiar because you're constantly moving up the spiral of becoming. Everything is continuously new. How do we navigate that? And that's when we learn in the system how to apply the tools that we learn and how to allow it to facilitate us to move from where we are now to where it is that we would love to be. And then take that and harvest the dreams that we eventually will see in our 3D world, and then continue on the spiral of becoming. And that's the way of life. When you know this year and next year is not going to be the same year because you are continuously becoming more and more and more of whoever it is you are already. Right? Because we already are who we are. It's a matter of unlocking those different stages. How do you go about unlocking the next level of who you are, the next level of what it is that you want? And I love explaining in 3D and 5D consciousness because in the coaching world, we're at the stage where like, okay, you got to niche down. You got to say, are you in the health? Are you in the wealth? Or like what arena are you in? And for me, it was a challenge on explaining that because I was like, it's not just about your weight. It's not just about the money in your bank account. It's not just about your relationships. Everything affects everything at the end of the day because there's this unity. It's the universe. This uni means that it's one thing at the end of the day. Again, we're not disconnecting. And my health is not going to be separated from my relationships because if I'm sick all the time, what impact is it going to have on my relationships, right? If I don't feel good about how I feel about myself, how is it going to impact my relationships? If I'm working all the time and my vocation is something that I don't enjoy doing, but I'm spending so much time doing it, how is it going to impact my home life? How is it going to impact my relationships? How is it going to impact my health? So disconnecting these things, it's not sustainable, right? There's always going to be one area we're going to be focusing on at a time, and you want to focus on one area at a time as opposed to doing everything all the time, okay? Because it's like a hose pipe. When you focus on one area, when there's one stream coming, there's a lot more power coming through it, one stream through the hose pipe of water, and it moves things quicker as opposed to having lots of streams, right? You're busy with a lot of things, and the water droplets are coming out nice and softly, right? The impact is not as impactful. And it's the same thing. So You're going to be focusing on one area of your life at any particular time, but you're not forgetting about all the other areas, because it all is all connected at the end of the day. Okay, so if you would love to know about more about the program that I facilitate my clients through in terms of facilitating the processes from moving from 3D consciousness to 5D consciousness, click on the link below to book a discovery call. And I call it a discovery call because this is a call where we're going to say, okay, is this the right program for you to be going through? Is this the right level of coaching for you to be engaging in? Is this something that's going to work for you and me to engage in terms of facilitating the process? But even if we don't move forward, if at the end of the call it turns out that we're not going to be the best fit for whatever it is that you would love to have come forth in your life, and what is it I'm endeavoring to facilitate my clients with, there is so much value in the call itself, because we go through a process that is specifically related to where you are now and uncovering what's looking to come forth for you specifically. And you also learn about how the process works in terms of dealing with beliefs that are not serving you anymore, and replacing those beliefs that are actually going to serve you to achieve the life that you want to be living. And if you are tired of living in a box of go and come and go and come, go to work, come back, do the thing, go, wake up, sleep, like a cycle of go to bed, sleep, wake up in the morning, live a life, rinse, repeat the same life over and over and over again, then this is something that I would highly encourage you to just look into. You're not committing to anything right now, but I would highly encourage you to look into it, because it is life changing. It definitely is. But there is some rigor to it as well. As anything new. I remember when I was learning how to drive for the first time, my goodness, it was one of the most stressful times, because I did not enjoy learning how to drive. But now I don't even think about it. I get into the car and I start and I go, and it's like I don't even think about it. But at the beginning, there is rigor to it. And this is why working with a coach makes it so much more doable, because you're working with someone who's gone through the process, number one, knows what you're going to be experiencing, and also understands how to navigate experiencing what it is you're going to be experiencing during the transition phase. Okay, so again, if you would love to look into it and discover if this is something that's going to definitely be for you, book a discovery call with me. The link is below. And that is it from me. I will be seeing you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye.